So imagine this, in 1998, we had one channel, right? Today, how many do we have? Do you have any idea how many we have?
No count, more than thousands.
Right?
More than that.
It's an incredible. We force this concept of unity in diversity, from Kanyakumari to this and that to this. Do I think about my Gujarati countrymen? I mean, the PM being Gujarati, maybe I'm forced to. But this national consciousness is a false consciousness. So, and the nation state needs armies to protect itself, to make you secure. You get a passport stamp. You don't get a passport, you get a passport. You cannot come into my nation because you don't have a visa. All of these are very violent instruments.
It's a great pleasure to have you for this conversation. So today we are going to talk about the work that you have done in the past, and also we are going to talk about the novel which has come very recently, and it has taken you 13 years to write this novel. Can we talk about your professional and intellectual identity? How do you conceptualize yourself? Because while going through the work that you have done in the past, you identify yourself as an ethnographer, as an anthropologist, as a journalist who has worked for 10 years in India and then chose academia. So can you talk about these decisions that you have taken with respect to the trajectory that you have had?
Yes, whenever one looks, first thank you very much for having me on this, and it's a pleasure. It was not planned. I think the only thing that was planned in my life from childhood is that I wanted to write, and that has remained in all the things that I have done. Journalism is literature in a hurry. We write the first drafts of history almost. So that was how it all started, my other hat which I wear beyond academia is as a novelist, and we were mentioning Red River, which is a new novel, but before that I had written a book called The Price You Pay.
Yes.
The Price You Pay was a story about a crime reporter, which was, literature and my journalism days merged very easily into one another. And my academic work, my PhD, was an ethnography of news production practices in India, right? So again, all of these have links.
Yes.
So though disparate as it sounds, they are all very intimately connected. In fact, The Price You Pay, as we were talking about it, is now being turned into a television series.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, called Crime Beat. It's coming out on the 21st of February.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And Sudhir Mishra, the famous director, is the showrunner and director of it. And I'm delighted that a work which I did so long ago has come. It looks very good. I've just seen the trailer. Like, okay. So yeah. So work gets reconceptualized. People rethink it in many ways. That's the fun of literature. Journalism, in one way, you write quickly. People read it, and kind of, unless it's long form journalism, it gets over. The other hat, which we were talking about, is academia. Now, what attracted me to academia was, I was a journalist at that time with NDTV, doing quite well and very young, on a decent career trajectory. And what I missed, I think, those days was the time to reflect and think on your own practice, what you're doing. And we made many mistakes, but there's just no time. It's a 24-hour television. It's a beast. It feeds off your all the time. Academia suddenly allowed me a pause and a time to reflect. So I got a full scholarship while I was in NDTV, and I went for a master's.
Which was in anthropology.
Yes, it was in anthropology of media, which was a very interesting course. And I was at the School of Oriental and African Studies at the University of London. I got a scholarship while I was at NDTV to do a master's in anthropology, in anthropology of media, and I found that fascinating. And SOAS was such a fascinating place to be in, where you have students from more than 150 nations coming in, and my worldview changed. And as I was doing the masters, I did well, and turned into a PhD, which was on a PhD on Star News and Star Ananda, which was the Rupert Murdoch was then had come into India in a big way. So I did an ethnography of these television channels, which was the only ethnography done on Murdoch organizations anywhere in the world. But because I was a journalist, I got access. And that turned into a book called Making News in India. But as I was finishing that, there was a postdoctoral fellowship which came in from Germany, in Heidelberg. That went on for 3 years. And then SOAS, where I had my alma mater, called me back to teach. And yeah, all of this kept happening simultaneously. So I still am a journalist. I still write columns. I present on radio. I write novels. I work on, the last 2 discussions I had here at the festival was one on environment, nature, one on AI. Those are my academic hats. Today morning's conversation was around Red River. So all of them, disparate as it sounds, kind of merges into each other and gives you a very rounded perspective.
Wonderful. So coming to your work, which is the Red River, the novel that came out in the market very recently, and people are talking about it, and I saw media covering it and saying all the great things about the book. So can we talk a little bit about, for our audiences, the themes that the book tries to explore? Can we talk about 2-3 larger themes that it covers?
So it's the book Red River is comes from the Brahmaputra,
yes.
Which has a reddish tinge, and it also refers to the violence in Assam and the Alpha, the organization which spearheaded that violence. The sun and the red was their symbol. So and then there's ancient folklore which goes back to the times of into ancient folklore in the Mahabharata, why the river turned red, all of that. So it's situated in Assam post 1971, when Bangladesh comes into being, and the influx of refugees and the creation of the separatist movement and the coming in of the army. So the 3 wings of the nation state, the refugees who want to belong, the army who believes in the nation state and protects its borders, and the separatist, what we call the terrorist organization, which wants to break free from the nation state. So all these elements are the main themes of the book, but it's told through the lives of 3 families, a refugee, army, and an Assamese separatist family, and the 3 boys who grow up together.
The friends.
They're best friends, right? And from 3 very different places. They fall in love. They grow up, they play cricket. In fact, the book starts with 1983 as India wins the World Cup, right? In a small village where television has come for the first time. And how they grow up and their different ways, and the destiny and the history that tells the story of Assam and the larger story of India. Hopefully it's a story about nation states, but it's also a very deeply personal story of friendship, boyhood, love, joy, and growing up in times of violence.
Oh, wonderful. So if we look at these 3 characters in the book, these 3 friends and their backgrounds, their cultural, political backgrounds, and they having different inclinations altogether. So how do you see that, who's the ultimate winner with respect to the power? If we look at the relationship of the state with power, and these 3 characters are situated and they negotiate with the state in different ways. There is someone who is working for the Ulfa, there is someone who is actually this immigrant from Bangladesh or Bengal, or then there is another one who is in army. So if we look at the question of power vis-a-vis state, is someone there who is emerging as the winner in the novel, someone who is comforted in the end, and someone who is actually discomforted by the end of it?
I think there's no winner and loser. That's too deterministic. I think in the violence that the nation can unleash, everyone loses. There's no winner. We all lose out, right? When we unleash violence upon ourselves or our neighbors, or people who don't think like us or who don't speak the same language, we all lose. And the book just reflects on the reality of those times, and times like such when there's a lot of violence, right? In Assam at the moment, because of a lot of governmental action. The question of who belongs, who doesn't belong. How do you decide who belongs? How long do you have to stay to belong? What language do you have to speak to belong? What food do you have to eat? How do you have to dress? All of these questions are asked of citizens to make them, you belong, you don't belong. A piece of paper decides, right? This violence. And if you don't have that piece of paper, all the lives you have led here, all the times, relations you have built, schools you have sent your kids to, over. You're out. You know, who decides this? How do you decide this? And if you decide this, are you not also a loser? Do you not lose out on the diversity that people bring? But those are the questions that, so I won't say that they're winners and losers. It questions and critiques the violence.
So how do you situate the concept related to migration, anti-immigration, and the communalism, and the Nelly massacre also, which happened?
The book starts with the Nelly massacre. 1983. I'm glad you mentioned Nelly massacre. 1983, as India wins the World Cup, just a month before that Nelly has happened. So it's happening in the backdrops of that massacre. In the very first chapter, the massacre of Nelly looms despite this enjoyment of India winning. So what was your question?
We have the debates going on NRC in the present times.
Indeed.
So how does the book situate in the context of the debates related to NRC? I think that it makes the book more relevant, because this question is unending. It's not something that you are reflecting about 1980s and 1990s. It's something which is very relevant in 2025 as well.
Indeed, and this is a pertinent question. That it's the same old questions are being asked. We have not moved on at all. And if you trace it back, it's from the traumas of partition, right? So there's a violence done then, and it's never been resolved. That violence, right? And that led to 1971, the creation of Bangladesh. That deep cut, when people were just torn apart, and we continue to do this. My book ends before the NRC question comes in time, actually, but the deep themes, the questions which such movements ask of us, is very much a part of the. I mean, in one sense, it's not only about Assam. And as a young student here at the talk, she's from Kashmir. She feels the same question. When I was giving a talk in Assam, a student from Arunachal Pradesh felt that it was his question. I've spoken to people in Palestine who feel this. So it's anywhere where there's violence and the state looms over you, such questions become relevant. It's at a particular moment, particular place, but it's at the universal. The nation state by itself is a very violent organization. It's born out of bloodshed. In Europe, when the nation state comes into being, it's born out of bloodshed. Before that, there was religion, the church, the kingdoms and kings. And the nation state needs armies to protect itself, to make you secure. You get a passport stamped. You don't get a passport. You get a passport. You cannot come into my nation because you don't have a visa. All of these are very violent instruments employed by the nation.
It's fascinating, the themes that the book tries to explore, and why you chose to write the book in fiction. Because there is so much of reality attached to the themes that you're trying to explore. You could have chosen to write it as a historical memoir because you are situated in that particular context yourself as well. You have grown in that situation, and you are reflecting and trying to interconnect your personal background with the changes that were taking place in 1980s, and why you chose to write it in the form of fiction.
I think this started as an ethnography of a small village in Upper Assam, situated between two election cycles, and I wanted to see the changes. Right, that's how I started it. So I went in there with my wife, who was then pregnant, and we just got a little place, and we stayed, and I interviewed people in a village. And then as the themes started emerging, I realized that I had other ambitions. A personal memoir would have worked to a certain extent, but these characters go in places I have never been, which was researched and thought through in different ways. So I couldn't do just a personal memoir. because I had a different agenda. Personal memoir would have been a different story. And I also didn't want to write about myself very much. My life itself is not very interesting. You know, it's another life. But I could imagine myself in many other situations, and it allowed me to imagine myself in other places, in other times, also in times where I have not been present, right? It allowed me to research those times and think those times through. Characters I developed, and you know, characters I've lived with for 13 years, that means they become a part of your life. So you almost imagine that you have lived in the 1940s, in the 1970s, where you've not been a part of this. So that was my fun way of having multiple selves.
Wonderful. So was there a particular moment when you decided, oh, this is not going to be completed as an ethnographic study and I want to convert it into a book? When was that moment there?
About 3 months into my research, I called up my publisher and said, boss, I've got to change this. We can't do, it was a commissioned study. I said, I'm going to write a novel. And her thing was 2 years. It took 13 years, but she stuck with me, you know. So my dear friend, she was Karthika, she was the publisher of HarperCollins. Then she moved into, what is now Westland, and where the book has been published. So it also builds a long relationships. In Assam, I have built so many relationships with the book, and a community I didn't know has read the book. People come to me. So it's quite a. You don't make money as a writer generally. You know, you live hand to mouth, but you open yourself to a different audience which I would never have had.
So why you took 13 years to write this book? That's
I wish I could answer that question. The problem was with me. The book became so personal that I could not let it go. Also, the book was 260,000 words. The edited volume, what you see is only 110. So I have thrown away 150,000 words. So it's another bigger novel than this which I have thrown away, right? So so cutting it down was traumatic and took a lot of time. It should never take that long. Okay. No, nothing should take that long. That 13 years is like a lifetime, right?
No, were there any challenges that you faced in these times when you were
a lot of self-doubt, self-doubt, lot of times feeling that it will not work.
Oh God.
Lot of not wrong, but lot of directions I took which didn't work. I had to come back. A lot of experimentation, a lot of turns and twists and turns, which the book doesn't itself. The book is a very polished, finished version, right? But the things which have gone right and wrong, and so you learn so much about yourself, right? As you write. So as a friend of mine says that I'm too stingy to pay money to a therapist. Instead I spend time on a book. So it's my own therapy, which I do through writing.
Wonderful. So that is related to your book, and in addition to that, when I was looking at your profile and the kind of contributions you have made to academics itself, when we look at the history of media in India, and you have written several papers on development and electronic media. So someone who has seen the idea of media technology being leveraged for the purpose of development in India, from Nehru to Modi. So
you've read that paper, have you?
Yes.
Okay.
So that sounded very fascinating, and not only that, I mean, your other work, which is The Price You Pay, it's very relevant in the present times. The question related to news production itself, when we look at the question of political communication, and it has become more and more relevant, the academic work that you have done, and I don't think that. No, as you said, that there was anybody doing the media anthropology at that time when you tried to do it. Yeah. So how do you give that larger overview of the way in which the landscape, the media landscape in India is changing from the past? Because your fieldwork was done maybe 10, 15 years back.
2007.
Yeah. How do you reflect on it now? What are the changes that have taken place, and if you will write more about it, do you think that there will be one more addition to the book that you already wrote earlier?
So my academic work, which came out in 2011, was called Making News in India, which was published by Routledge. And as I said, it was an ethnography of Star News and Star Ananda. But they have morphed. No, Ananda Bazaar has brought them totally.
Absolutely.
And Murdoch has gone on and invested in different other places. See, the media landscape has seen the biggest change in India. So imagine this, in 1998, we had one channel, right? Today, how many do we have? Do you have any idea how many we have?
No count, more than thousands.
Right?
More than that.
So it's an incredible burst, right? It's unimaginable what has happened in television in India. Newspapers, not so much. Radio, a little bit of private. Newspapers hasn't really seen that kind of growth, and which is strange to me. But television has gone absolutely, it's skyrocketed. This, general entertainment television, sports coverage, news, the coming of the OTT channels, it's revolutionized. There are many good things here. One of the big change is it's disrupted the monopoly of Delhi, right?
Absolutely.
The center and the peripheries, which we thought, I remember days when it was one vernacular cinema starting with Assamese A till Z, and it'd come around every Sunday afternoon, they'd show a vernacular film. So Delhi was the center, we were all peripheral. West Bengal was peripheral, Kerala was peripheral. It will come to you by turns. Now, centers and peripheries have shifted. Assam is its own center and Delhi is a periphery because we have production. We produce from Assam or West Bengal or Nagaland. Or production means have changed, right? So that's a big change. The other big change is language, bhasha, vernacular coming in. The disruption of the monopoly of English, and the babu culture, the bureaucrats. That has been disrupted massively. I mean, imagine when NDTV launched, they put more money into Hindi than NDTV 24/7. So NDTV Hindi had much more money, and I was in NDTV then. The bigger studios went to Hindi, right? So Star, Murdoch coming in and launching in Bengali and Hindi told you about a changing culture. Where is the audience? The audience is in the vernacular, right? Then you see the OTT culture. How Netflix and Amazon, these global giants, have worked to produce from India more and more localized content. So these are big disruptions. I will not add a good or bad, that's kind of a, there's no simple explanation to this.
Do you think that Assam gets its representation? We talk about the larger democratization that has taken place with the digitization of the entire thing, media ecosystem. So how do you see that it gets reflected in the larger imagination of the nation in the present times? Do you think that there is still that kind of marginalization of the narrative, or it has gotten better, obviously?
These are difficult ones. I mean, who gets represented and who is representing? I mean, representation from where, right? Delhi, Bombay,
from
Kerala.
Consciousness from the national
the national imaginary. Is Assam in the national imaginary?
Yeah.
I mean,
that's the question.
No, I mean, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand that question and I grapple with it. I mean, it's a difficult. So, as a Bengali in West Bengal growing up in Assam, is Kerala in my national imaginary? I don't know. I work for Malayalam Manorama. Is it? I mean, imaginaries are very difficult. We force this concept of unity in diversity, from Kanyakumari to this and that to this. Do I think about my Gujarati countrymen? I mean, the PM being Gujarati, maybe I'm forced to. But this national consciousness is a false consciousness. It's forced in conversations between you and me.
Yes.
I hardly think of Bangalore, right? Bengaluru. Oh, where are IT. Everyone has their own community imaginaries almost. National imaginary is a forced one. So whether Assam is represented, I'll ask by whom? Assam represents itself. Delhi represents itself. Bombay does the same. Bombay has a Bollywood, so therefore is more powerful. Now South India is doing Tollywood. It's
wonderful.
The imaginaries are impossible, and no one is ever equally represented. What would make equal representation? Or Arnab Goswami have to do Assam to make it equal, or Rajdeep Sardesai, or Barkhadat? I don't know. It's an impossible question to answer, and this is why I sometimes get irritated with even my fellow Assamese. We are not represented.
No, because the question comes from the fact that I have a couple of friends who work on Assamese media and the kind of marginalization and representation, and they have all the time to write the books about.
I know. So then as Indians living abroad will say, we're not represented in Western media.
So do you have a serious problem with the question?
This representation problem is like, why should they? Who should they? Why do you have to imagine yourself through another person's representation? And there's a question of power. An Assamese television channel can keep on saying this thing. If it's done on Z, it's a different power relation, right? So it's a complicated question to say whether it's enough. When will it be enough? How much will be enough? How can we represent everyone equally? It's an impossibility, right?
Yes. So you are a faculty of media and communication in School of Oriental and African Studies, London, and you have been part of the whole, I think, the academic space there.
Yeah.
When you look at media studies in India, I'm sure that you will be having some sort of understanding of the way in which the media studies operates in India. How do you see what are the things that we are trying to do in the context of India, the institutions located in India itself, and what are the things, for example, when you teach your students who are coming from diverse backgrounds, so you bring your own experience and your ethnography and journalism background into it and make sense of it. But how do you largely make sense of the media studies in the context of India, and what can we possibly do to make it, if it is worse, something better? Because this question comes from my personal experience. I am part of the media studies department here at Alliance University. So we are in the way to make things better for us in terms of conceptualizing the idea of media studies. So last question.
Sure. Who am I to kind of advise anyone or say anything critical? But and there's been a huge movement, positive movement in critical media studies. For a long time, media studies meant a vocational course where you want to become a journalist or a news presenter, or you want to be a camera person or a film director. But the critical element of media studies, which is what you and I have been talking about, was missing for a while. But I think that has come in hugely, and people have understood the strengths of theory and social theory. Not only media theory is kind of clause from sociology, politics, humanities to build a name for itself and find a space, and that has happened hugely, especially with the growth of private universities such as yourself. It's come on massively. The papers that are being produced from here are, and scholars of political communication, even political theory, economy, all writing in various ways, and it's fascinating to read.
What are your future projects?
Oh God. Write the next novel. No, write the next novel, definitely. And I'm irritated that I have not managed to start full flow. I have a story in my head. I'm not writing it. I'm also, moving into hopefully film scripts and scriptwriting, exploring other ways of telling stories. So this, the one which is coming out,
adaptation
of the book. But I'm writing independent films with film directors in Bombay, various projects. We'll see how that comes along. But it's an exciting one. It's new, and it's something which I haven't done. It has a very different rhythm, vocabulary, grammar, and science to it, which is very different from the novel. Novel is all interior. There, everything is out there. Everything is said, has to be said. So we're learning new craft.
So, is there any question that you want to address which I have not asked you?
No. It's been a fantastic discussion. You've really, I don't know if I have any more to say, to be honest. But thank you very much.
No, if there is something that we need to highlight as a part of the whole podcast.
No, I think it's all been to the point.
So we covered.
We have covered everything that I've done and more.
Thank you so much for being part of this conversation.
Absolute pleasure.
So glad to meet you also in person.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.